And welcome back, everybody, to Summer with the Stars, episode 12. I'm Owen Newkirk, and today, for a rare occasion, we have a in-studio guest as opposed to over the phone. Travis Morin back a little early, as you know, the players will start to sort of trickle their way in over the next couple of weeks. Getting back into the Texas heat here before we hit September, which is really the time that guys start to head towards Dallas. What's it like going from the, I would imagine, very comfortable confines of Minnesota weather in August to Central Texas?
It's obviously a bit steamier down here. Uh, I left 75 and sunny most days up there to come down to the 95 plus heat. But, it's good to be back in town and just getting ready for the season now.
Now, a little early because the training camp for Dallas doesn't start for another couple of weeks. Here earlier because I believe school starts next Monday. Is that kind of now being a family man have to alter your travel plans a little bit?
Yeah, we were just trying to get the family settled here. My son's going to be in preschool, and we got to figure out where he's going to go for that. But, yeah, we're just trying to get all that stuff squared away so when the season starts, we're not kind of scrambling and we can focus on hockey.
I want to talk a little bit more with you about sort of going back through your career a little bit, but you have been a family man for the last few years now, especially with your son starting, getting into the school system. A little different from your first couple of years pro to having a family and kids to think about.
Yeah, it's completely different. When I first started and I was in South Carolina, it was just me and my wife, and I golfed every day pretty much with the guys after practice, and then went home and she hung out with the girls while we were doing that, and now you after practice it's straight home, play with the little guy and hang out with the family, and the the things your priorities change a little bit obviously, and that's fine. I'm perfectly happy with the way things are.
Is it nice now, your son getting a little bit older, to be able to share the sport a little bit more, not just on the ice, but also to be able to watch and kind of understand, recognize, and really appreciate a little bit more about what dad is doing on the ice?
Yeah, I mean he loves hockey. We play in mini hockey all day long in the house, and he enjoys pretty much every sport too. If we're not playing mini hockey, we go from one sport to the next. Let's play football, Dad. Let's go outside, play baseball. Let's go golf. He enjoys it all. So definitely, now that he's getting a little older and know that, Dad's kind of plays at a, high level here that people are watching, and, that kind of stuff. And, he wants me to, win a championship because he wants to see the cup on the ice and all that kind of stuff. And so now that he's getting older and realizing and, getting into it himself, it's a lot of fun.
It's got to be a little different, too, because some hockey dads have kids towards the end, if not past their playing career, and then really are limited to telling their kids, this is what dad used to do. To be able to actually share it in person has to be really special.
Yeah, it's nice that, hopefully in the next couple of years, these are things he might remember when he gets a little older, and he'll know that his dad played hockey at a pretty high level, and, that'd be something that, he'll think was pretty cool, hopefully, still, when he gets older, and maybe tell his friends about it or whatever. But yeah, it's nice that he'll get to actually experience it and hopefully remember watching his dad play.
Well, speaking of the next couple of years, you signed a new 2-year deal with it's Texas Stars / Dallas Stars, an NHL two-way contract. It's similar in a sense that you signed the same 2-year deal 2 years ago. What was the thought process and the decision making that went into doing this and inking up with Dallas again for 2 more years?
I'm a big I think I play best when I'm comfortable, and going somewhere new, it usually takes me a little while to get comfortable with things. And so I think the way I'm going to play my best is to stay somewhere that I'm comfortable, knowing that, I still have a bit of a shot to get up there. And, I know a lot of the guys that are up there now, and that's obviously going to help if I do get up there or when I go to training camp. Just, like I'm saying, being comfortable is big for me. So I think I'll play my best. Whereas if I went somewhere else, I'd it would take me a little while, and I might not play very well at the beginning because I'm taking my time to get comfortable, or feeling my way through the locker rooms and stuff. So I and at the same time, my wife and I both like it down here. If this is where we end up for the 2 years and we don't ever make it up to Dallas, we really like Cedar Park and Austin area, and we're very happy to live here.
And as a golfer, you look at your entire pro resume. With the exception of Hershey, you've played in a golf-friendly climate, which is rare for hockey. There aren't that many teams available that you can do that, yet you've found a way to make sure that that's part of the criteria.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a bonus. The couple places I've been, South Carolina had a lot of nice golf courses, and a lot of them that helped the guys out that were on the team, and down here the same thing. There's a lot of nice courses around the area, and as a golfer, yeah, it's a bonus, and it helps to get the brothers and the old man down too, because in the middle of winter in Minnesota, they're raring and ready to go for a round of golf come January, February, and it's still 50, 60 degrees down here. We can still do it.
I'll tell you, it's one of the biggest appeals to get people to come visit you during the hockey season is to have the weather that Texas has during the year. Is that really perfect for you to summer in Minnesota and winter down here in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice. We went home this year in June, right when it was starting to get pretty hot down here, and I went home and it was 70 degrees, and we had a couple days, probably for the 2.5 months I was home, that were up in the 90s maybe, and other than that, it was 70s, 80s, and, a little rain here and there, but, that's to be expected up there, but summers up there are really nice, and, it's nice to get out in the water and hang out by the lake and golf up there too.
Being a Minnesota boy, land of 10,000 lakes, you don't really hear a lot about watering restrictions or drought conditions like you do down here. I mean, what a difference in climate. Not to mention the fact that, I was just up in New York State a couple of weeks ago, and 90 degrees is an extremely hot day, but there's usually a little bit more humidity associated with it. At the same token, people in Texas might laugh at people up north's reaction to warmer weather. It's the other way around when the cold weather starts to happen too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it gets to be interesting around here when it gets a little chilly. I know, like when we were in South Carolina and there was just storm or snow in the forecast, possibly just like a dusting, and you would have thought the whole city had to shut down. There were people going to the panic or going to the stores and buying out all their bottled water and canned foods, trying to prepare for it, and you'd drive out on the roads and there'd be nobody out there just because it was 40 degrees and there was a little, maybe dusting blowing around. But yeah, it's when it gets cold around here, it's completely different than you'll see guys up in Minnesota wearing shorts when it's 50 degrees in the springtime after it's, been 10 degrees or 0 or whatever. But as soon as it gets to, 50 degrees, they think that's warm. They're wearing shorts, T-shirts. Down here, people are still bundled up in their jackets and pants and sweatshirts and everything. But
it's a matter of perspective, because when I was growing up in Maine, I remember playing outdoor hockey all the time, and if it was 20 degrees or warmer, that meant you probably didn't have to wear your winter coat. You could probably get away with a couple layers, sweatshirt, and you started to feel really warm, whereas 15, 10, and below, then you started to really have to bundle up. I don't even know what people would do around here in Texas if it hit below freezing.
yeah, I know it'd be interesting. I think the same kind of thing that happened in South Carolina might happen. I saw it up in Dallas when I was in Dallas. The one time I got called up, that was when the big winter storm came through there, and I mean it looked like the place was just shut down. But I mean they obviously, when it snowed up there, they don't have the capabilities to handle that with the roads and such. So they kind of just have to wait for it to, frost away or defrost or whatever, and the roads, they don't have the salt and all that stuff to take away the ice, because it was a bit tricky getting to the rink that day, I remember. And yeah, it's a whole different ball game down here when it gets that cold.
Tell me a little bit about that debut, because you did so. It was January 26, 2011. I'm sure you remember it very, very well, because it was the first time you've ever played a game in the highest level of hockey in the world. To go from Minnesota State, or actually even before that, Minnesota high school hockey, playing college, and then starting in the ECHL, There's lots and lots of guys that have gone from the ECHL to play in the NHL, but in comparison to all the players that have played at that level, it's a very small percentage. So to have gotten through that and worked your way up had to feel very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a dream come true, and when I was in South Carolina, there was a time when I didn't even know if I'd get a real shot in the AHL, and then Texas gave me a chance, and then Dallas, obviously gave me a chance to go up and play a few games up there, and yeah, I mean, it was nice. They let me start that game, which was probably a good thing, just to get on the ice and get it out of the way right away. And I think that probably helped a little bit. And I was playing with some guys that made it a little bit easier, and with a couple of veterans. And it was obviously a great experience.
You played 3 games that year with Dallas. You mentioned it kind of takes you a little while to get comfortable. Did you at all feel comfortable playing in those games, or were you just that nervous ball of energy the whole time?
I obviously right away the first game you're nervous, and you're probably thinking a little too much, but I think the second two I was a little more comfortable. Obviously, like I said, I take a little time to adapt to the situation, maybe, which isn't the greatest thing when you're trying to move up levels like that. But I think, I thought I played pretty well, and it was just, my little shot there, and hopefully I can get another one here, I guess.
You played with Glenn Gulletson for 2 seasons here in Texas, and obviously that you know people in Dallas. It helped to have worked your way through with him and Paul Gerard, and then of course they were up in Dallas. What do you think the change to the new GM Jim Nill and the new head coach in Lindy Ruff does for everybody's prospect, let alone yours personally, in terms of trying to make the Dallas Stars?
Well, it's a clean slate, I guess. They probably, in my case and in quite a few other guys' cases, probably they don't know a whole lot about us, I guess. I think Jim Nill might know a little bit more because he was here at the end of the year last year, and he got to come down and watch a few games and such. But like with Lindy Ruff, obviously he's probably not going to know much about me or a few other guys that are down here. But that just gives us, a clean slate to go out there and impress him, and he won't have any preconceived notions about how we play or who we are really. So it gives us just a clean slate, I'd say.
I know that the lockout was a bizarre year for everybody last year. Just having a full NHL season, even if you don't make the Dallas Stars roster, which is obviously your first attempt and first goal here, having a full season to have an opportunity for call-ups has to be more intriguing for a guy like you or any of the other veteran guys than a shortened season like last year.
Yeah, obviously, when you get 82 games up there, they're banging every night, and, injuries are bound to happen, and, sometimes you can get a string of them, and guys that, don't expect to get called up might have to be called up, and, so that's obviously, you obviously don't want to see people get hurt, and I don't wish that upon anybody up there, but, it's going to happen, and if, for whatever reason they feel that I'm doing a good enough job down here and they want to give me a chance, and that'll be great, I'll be ready, and if not, we'll just continue trucking away down here.
I'm obviously prefacing this by saying that this is only presuming that you might be here, because there's obviously that chance. We just don't know. But if you're playing with the Texas Stars this year, you won't have your left wing of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when Matt Fraser got traded as part of the big Tyler Seguin deal with the Boston Bruins?
It was obviously for me, if I enjoyed playing with him. Obviously, he was very talented and had a great shot, which really worked well with my skill set. But I mean, it's an opportunity for him to probably get a little bit of a chance to go into Boston and maybe make their team, and if not, continue his development in Providence. And I think he's got a great future. He's obviously, he can shoot the puck, he can skate, and he's a big kid. He's got a lot of tools to make it. And when I saw it, I just sent him a text and said, sorry to see you go, but good luck in the future, and hopefully we'll see you in Boston. And it was obviously, it takes away some of our scoring punch down here if he would have been here. But I'm sure we'll find ways to make up for it.
Being a left-handed shot on the right wing of the power play setup, you knew he was going to be there. You knew you had a weapon there. Was that pretty comfortable over the last 2 seasons, knowing that you had the kind of weapon that he brought to the table with his shot?
Yeah, it's something where he could one time a puck, like nobody else on our team, and he could get it off. He could get it off hard, and it was accurate. And it was easy for me to just put the puck into spots for him to get his shot off, and especially on the power play, it was something that other teams that had to concern themselves with, which in turn could open up other things, other options.
Now, the leadership for this year is still very much intact, potentially. And I say that because every single one of these guys is going to want to make the Dallas Stars, and that's everybody's attempt. But you're one of 5 original Stars left who have played all 4 years. There's 2 more guys who will lose that status this year. Matthew Tousigny, who, of course, signed with another AHL team, and then Richard Bachman, who signed with Edmonton, and we may very well see him in Oklahoma City colors, which would be a little weird as well. But yourself, Colton Sevier, Max Fortunas, Gazdic, and Wattier.
Yeah.
Pretty well-known 5 players for this organization over the last 4 years. This is the 5th anniversary now. Adding in Toby Peterson for his second year, who clearly is one of the leaders of the team. You guys have an incredible core of experienced players to build on what I thought was a very promising year last year, and I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about that later, about what wasn't accomplished last season. But do you feel that the groundwork is laid out for a pretty strong year if everything goes the way the Stars want it to?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we have a lot of veterans and a lot of guys that have been around here, and a lot of leadership in the locker room, even if they're from the younger guys like Gazdic and Sevier. They're not very old, but they've been around for a while now, and they're definitely leaders on the team. I think a lot of the guys that were on the team at the end of the year will be back. We lost a couple guys, I guess, and we picked up a pretty good player, I think. Whether he's here or in Dallas, that's a different story. But I think we're going to have, a lot of talent again. Our goaltending should be the same, I think, and that's obviously nice to have because it really all starts from the goaltender out, and I really look for us to have a really good year again this year. You
are, at least from my expectation, very soft-spoken in public, especially when we do interviews. You offer great things, but do it in a way that isn't quite the same style as a Luke Gazdic per se. Not that necessarily he's the gold standard, but he's certainly outspoken. But everybody says that you're one of the first guys to speak up when something has to be said in the locker room. Have you always been that kind of a player?
Yeah, I don't like to talk a lot, and hopefully when I do say something, guys will take notice and take it to heart. I try to lead more by example than the rah-rah speeches and stuff, but I'll definitely try to say something on the bench or in the locker room when I feel like it needs to be said.
We talked, and more of a lighter note, I talked a lot about some really funny things that have happened over the course of the last year with me being here in Texas. And last week with Mike Hedden, we were talking about one of the funnier pranks that we saw all year of him skating around the practice rink in Grand Rapids with a piece of bubble gum inflated on the top of his helmet for, I think, about 45 or 50 minutes. And he immediately blamed Max Fortunas, although he said Max never admitted to it, and he will never, of course. You've played with Max for a long time. You know how he is. But you were the I don't think you were real pleased. A bit of a birthday celebration. You and Jack Campbell both were targeted by the team, although I played a very small bit part in that. Got a little bit of the whipped cream to the face during a practice here at Cedar Park Center. Jack seemed to take it a little better than you did that day.
Oh, I'm fine with that. It was good. Yeah, I mean, we obviously, when you get guys around each other every day of the week for multiple hours upon hours, you're gonna have guys that come up with things and pranks and such, especially when you're on the road and staying in hotels and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I try to stay out of it just because if you start giving it, you're going to get it, and sometimes you don't want to mess with that. So I try to stay out of it for the most part, but it's all in good fun.
Hedden says it's not worth going back at Fortunas because he's only going to open up a level which he thought maybe was out of bounds or against the rules, and it just gets worse and worse. Have you played or seen anybody in your time as a pro that rivals Max in terms of his pranking abilities?
No, Max takes it to a whole nother level. He's always on the prowl, looking for something, some way to get somebody. So you want to try to stay on his good side.
Tell me a little bit about the golfing rivalry in the team, because you have quietly, and not so quietly, been called out by pretty much your entire team, especially when we were about ready for the foundation charity event last year, because you wanted to play with the same guys. You won it that time. But, you know, you have some guys that have been fighting and bickering between each other, Dowling and Hedden, about some golf for dinner outings that they've played or not played, because apparently Hedden claims Dowling won't play him again. And it seems to be that the competition that is natural in pro athletes never stays just on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously those two guys are single, so they golf a lot more than I get to golf. And I'd like to make it out a little bit more, but yeah, we'd hear about their competitions and their golfing on a regular basis, but yeah, I think the competitiveness in hockey players, and I think in athletes in general, is just, it doesn't just stop with the, whatever sport your profession is in. I was watching Hard Knocks, and there's the football players challenging each other to swim races and stuff, and I mean the guys barely looked like they could swim in the first place, but they're still trying to race each other across the pool and stuff. But yeah, I think when you get those competitive juices flowing and you do it for a living kind of thing, it's hard to turn it off even when it comes to some other sport.
Speaking of not being able to turn it off, how hard is it to think back about the playoffs last year? You've had 3 really deep runs in your pro career, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But last year was a season where the team really didn't get off to a very good start, but you knew that there was some potential there. Mid to late November, a couple of good turnarounds sparked a real surge by this team, and then vaulted by the time the end of the calendar year into January. You guys were on top of the conference, top of the league, and stayed right on that, top 2 or 3 spots overall throughout the rest of the regular season. But that being said, you personally, along with everybody on your line, was banged up going into the playoffs. How hard was that to try to play at the highest level possible, knowing that not one of you were even close to playing 100%?
Yeah, it's always difficult. Last year was we had pretty much 3 different teams during the year. The one that started, and then when the NHL season started, we had a completely different team. And then when the trade deadline hit, we completely got flipped around again. I think the team we had in the middle there, we were very cohesive, and guys knew their roles and everybody was contributing. And then kind of when the trade deadline hit, it was like a reset button, and I don't think we really quite gelled as a team the same way with all the new faces. And then when the playoffs hit, we did get pretty banged up. And I know, like you said, with my line, with Frazier and Sevier, we were all banged up a little bit. We were obviously battling and trying to do our best, but looking back, it is disappointing to know that injuries and things like that play that big a factor. And because we felt, if we could have been a little bit healthier and got a couple bounces, maybe, like, things would have been different.